So as Frank told you, I'm going to tell you a little bit about 2.0.0, which is coming hopefully very soon. How do I switch the slide, Frank? Okay, it done it. The primary goals for the next major version of the core are listed here. We want to increase maintainability, to have less efforts for maintaining all the parts of the core in future. Also, we want to increase code quality. For example, we have to dissolve some high couplings within the object library in order to avoid subsequent errors after we change some things. Also, we want to reach less size and less memory consumption, which is also related to those couplings, because at the moment you have to load almost all util classes on every request, which is filling your memory without having any functionality already. So we have to try to get those things dissolved and load only those parts which are actually really required on the current request. And secondary goals which should also be fulfilled in the same time are increased reliability and increased code understandability, because if we are doing almost complete rewrites of internal code parts, we can directly try to make them readable, give the vars new names, and make it in such a way that every developer who is looking at the code can actually understand it. There are a quite huge amount of architectural changes coming in this major version. For example, we have to integrate the object library with the old PN APIs. So, for example, pnmod.php will be merged into the module util. And also 2.0.0 will be PHP 5 only. And this leads to that we are creating a completely new module architecture based on object orientation, leading to less code in every module, because the core will be able to encapsulate very much functionality centrally. So every module developer can look forward to having to write less code in the next major version. We have also to consider legacy class system to make the old modules work in the same way, look from the outside as the new ones, so that we don't have to care about legacy at every single part of the code, but at a central place where all the legacy parts are living. At the same time, we will only support the legacy level for Zikula 1 series modules. Post-nuke modules will not be supported anymore in 2.0.0, because at some point we have to make a break simply to get our efforts not increasing endlessly. The object orientation also allows us to have even far more flexible error handling, because we can use exceptions. So you don't have to treat an error at the same place where it has been caused. So we can, for example, have a very central error handling and react on several error types differently, and we gain very much flexibility here. Also, we got an R class autoloader now, so we don't have to include all our files with the loader. Loader include once this file, that one. This will be done automatically. And it is also intended to get rid of the type parameter, which we are carrying through all the URLs right now, because if you strictly see what the module does within its different sections, it only depends on permissions. You can do that with permissions only, and for example, if a user has admin permissions, you can create or show additional links leading them to administrative functionality. You don't have to divide this into different types, because this is also causing very much complexity, which is not really needed. There are several modules which have duplicated functionality only because they want to support different editor types. So, for example, editor areas are often copies from admin areas, simply with a few functions less. And this can be combined, and we don't have to use the type anymore. A huge component which was introduced in 2.0 is Doctrine. Doctrine is an object relational mapper, so it cares about how to store objects in the database and retrieve them again. It is a replacement for our DBUtil, and implicitly also ADODB gets replaced by PHP's PDO with that. With Doctrine we get more abstraction than with DBUtil even, so we can save more code and work on a more higher level. And one advantage is that the whole Doctrine project is maintained independently. So we don't have to fix any DBUtil errors, we don't have to care about all this database access in future, because it's not an elemental part of what is Zikula as a project. So the core developers should not put their efforts into fixing database stuff. And this was one of the main reasons why we decided to get this external project integrated, because Doctrine is very actively developed, and we should take use of that instead of trying to get our own solution better, because we can't put this effort. We don't have enough manpower, and we should concentrate on those parts of the core which are Zikula specific, and database access is a general issue. Doctrine works with its own query language, and if you compare the DQL to SQL, the main difference is that Doctrine is selecting objects directly. So the whole conversion of the database rows into the objects is done in the internal system. You get your objects directly without having to deal with any database rows. You simply call a DQL and get your objects out of it and can work with them. So the complete database stuff is handled completely inside Doctrine, and you don't have to deal with it anymore. Doctrine offers also many powerful features we don't have at the moment, like transactions, prepared statements, hooks, you can see validation, inheritance. There's so many to discover. Certainly we can't talk about all that here. We selected a few ones we wanted to show you as examples. One thing is that Doctrine supports inheritance based on column aggregation. So you can store similar objects in one table, and you have a special column where Doctrine stores which object the current database rows is representing. So after you select your objects, you get for each row the corresponding object for that type. For example, if you have a user and a special user, and you selected, for example, 10 objects, for every object, Doctrine has already decided if it is a user instance or a special user instance. And the next one are behaviors. This is something like a template system within Doctrine, letting you reuse any functionality over several database tables. Some examples are the searchable behavior, which creates an index table letting you perform full text searches. Or with the taggable behavior, you can include tag handling into your tables. Or the versionable, the internationalization, you get revisions, you get multi-language content, is all out of the box.